Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures. And today we're doing part 173 of our Planet Zoo mod spotlights. We took a look at some of the wonderful mods people are making and use them to talk about some of the wonderful biodiversity that we share our world with. So today we've got another interesting assortment, a couple invertebrates, a few primates, a bat, and we've got a canid that we'll be talking about, so that'll be quite cool. So we're going to be starting off with Scott, who has made a really cool mod, exhibit mod. So it's got the black-tailed thick-tailed scorpion, so it's a bit of a mouthful. Talk about the species. I just want to have a look at the exhibit camera, so you can see this guy here. So you can find one in the sun. Oh, perfect. So this is the black-tailed thick-tailed scorpion, or Parabruthus latifrons, or lavifrons. So these are actually considered one of these smaller species of thick-tailed scorpion in southern Africa, and they reach a length of about 5 centimeters with the tail extended, and are usually pale with orange and darker back, and also the black tail that we get on about. So they typically occur in Karoo and rocky desert habitats, but can also be found under logs, rocks, and debris. They are widespread through central and southern Namibia, extending into northwestern South Africa, and the blacktail actually makes the species quite distinct. And its venom may be of medical significance, however, antivenom is not effective, and the sting will be treated systematically. So basically, as symptoms present themselves. Let's have a look at the Zoopedia. Let's see if we find some more information. Due to their stings' quick-acting venom, they rely on a lesser extent of their slender pincers, or chelicerae, to hold on to prey. So it's actually a common relationship with all the scorpions. Scorpions that tend to have large chelicerae or large pincers tend to have weaker venom compared to larger ones. Most species, about 20 out of the 28 species of Parabruthus, are endemic to Southern Africa, but some do range to Eastern Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. And parabritoxin is a potassium channel inhibitor isolated in the venom of some of these species. And the three species, Parabruthus transvalicus and velarus and sclerai, have thought to be able to spray venom from their tails, but it's not the species. And of course, they don't share any habitat with anyone. But yeah, another really nice little Scott mod. Really did a great job of that. So next up, we've got Narwhaler, who's made another invertebrate mod. We're having a look at the really cool Grant's camel spider. So let's have a look at these cool. Have a look at these guys, or Solifuges is also their name. So the scientific name for these guys is Gladys granti. So these guys are quite an intriguing species of Solifuge, also known as sun spiders, camel spiders, or wind scorpions. So these arachnids can be found in quite varied habitats, including the Namib Desert in southern Namibia. And although solifuges are widespread about deserts worldwide, the ecology and behavior of this particular species actually caught the attention of researchers as they have unique adaptations to dark environments. So the Namib Desert is where these guys live in southern Africa. It's home to quite an array of endemic flora and fauna that have adapted to the extreme temperatures and limited water resources characteristic of the region. And one fantastic aspect of the solifuges is their temporal activity patterns, which differ greatly from the nocturnal species. And some researchers kind of shed lights on the role of burrowing, mating, and oviposition plays within their survival in the hostile environment. Along with these abilities to endure extreme conditions, they exhibit unique behavioral traits such as stridulation when threatened. That's something a lot of tarantulas do. And this rapid and vigorous movement serves as kind of a defense mechanism against predators, further illustrating the remarkable resemblance to these resilience of these desert-dwelling arachnids. And as research continues, the species continues to be a fascinating subject of how animals adapt and survive to some of Earth's most hostile environments. So they belong to the order Solifugae, which is known for their large size, prominent jaws, and lightning fast speeds. And although they do seem to look quite frightening as a glance, you can see this big jaws there. They're not venomous and actually pose a little threat to humans. And their body is actually typically covered in short bristly hair that gives them a kind of fuzzy appearance. And it's important to note they're often referred to as spiders, but camel spiders are not true spiders, as they belong to a different order of arachnids. They do have 8 legs, but they're not a spider, they're an arachnid, just a different one. These guys are well adapted to harsh environments and are primarily nocturnal, which allows them to escape the intense heat of the day. They spend their daytimes hidden in burrows under rocks, waiting for the cool of the night to come out to hunt prey. And in their natural habitat, they feed on a variety of invertebrates like other insects and small animals. Temperature tolerance is a vital factor for the survival in extreme desert conditions. They have been recorded to survive temperatures ranging from 50 degrees to minus 10 degrees for a short period, making them incredibly resilient, and this ability to endure such a wide range of temperatures contributed significantly to the distribution across the landscape. And understanding the biology and habits of the species not only help us understand how diverse arachnids are, but how creatures survive in their deserts. So that's quite cool. In terms of their reproduction and life cycle, the reproductive behavior of these guys begins with a detailed courtship ritual, with males and females engaging in a complex dance, with the male signaling his interest to the female. And once they've mated, the female will lay her eggs in a secure burrow, protecting them from potential predators, and the young hatch and go through several development stages, reaching adulthood, called instars. The life cycle of these guys is seasonal, which means they're most active in certain times of the year, depending on environmental factors such as temperature and humidity. And while the life cycle of the Gladys grantii has not been extensively studied, it is known they have a typically pretty short lifespan, ranging from about 7 months to a year. And they are fascinating creatures and play quite a vital role in their ecosystem, as their predatory behaviors help maintain the balance of insects and small predators, with their unique reproductive habits ensuring the continuation of their species. So let's have a look at some more information about these guys. So these are, as I mentioned, solifuges. And sun spiders are, these guys are large species that inhabit, Namibia, places like that. I think I put Southern Africa, but that might be the wrong one. Namib Desert, so around there. Very interesting species, despite the various names that actually was mentioned that. So the word solifuge comes from the word sol, which means sun, or lefuge, which means to flee, so basically the sun fleer. They're very fast and can reach about 16 kilometers an hour. Some species can produce sounds by stridulation, usually raspy and hissing-like. There can be imitations of the sound of vipers, which are used to defend themselves. And the first pair of legs on solifuge is not actually legs, but pedipalps, which adds a sensory organs very similar to insects' antennae. So you can see kind of those first pair there. They're a little bit more antennae than actually like legs. And you can see those really big claspers that they've got there. Really well adapted for killing prey. But yeah, quite cool. Definitely a big fan of these guys. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted. So now we're moving on. So that was done by Narwhaler, who always kills it. Does a really wonderful job. So now we'll be moving on to some mammals. So next up, we've got the Honduran white bat, done by Tosco DS. Another really cool exhibit mod. So let's have a cute look at these guys. A little bit too hidden for me. They're really, really cute little guys. Actually did a really wonderful job with them. See if you can find one hiding in a nice position to actually... I'm looking for one that's kind of sitting on a funky roost. Let's see if we can find it. There we are. So the Honduran white bat, or Ectophyla albina, also known as the Caribbean white tent-making bat, is a species of bat in the family Phyllosomatidae, and is the only member of their genus, Ectophyla. And the genus of the species was described for the first time in 1892, and have distinctive, entirely white fur, which only found in 6 of the roughly 1,300 species of bats. And what's really cool is they construct tents out of understory plants by strategically cutting the leaf ribs with its teeth, and it roosts in these tents during the day, and is a specialist frugivore, consuming almost entirely fruits of one species of fig. They can also likely be pregnant twice a year, giving birth to one offspring at a time. So to mention their taxonomy, they are the kind of their own group. They were considered to be related to another group, Ectophylla, but now they're monotypic with Myscophylla, and Ectophylla pretty much leads outleaf, so they basically, the white outleaf is kind of their name. And like both their common name and species name suggest, they are entirely white. They have this bright white fur. The tips of individual hairs are grey, with the greyish colour becoming more pronounced near their back. The species, along with 4 species of Diarctos species and the ghost bat, are currently the only known species where their pelt is all white. They have a large nose leaf, distinguishable from the northern ghost bat. However, the only white bat that is sympathetic, the only white bats that live together. Its wing membranes, you can see, are black, with its ears and the cartilage projections in front of the eye openings, the nose leaf and lips, or a bright yellowish or orange colour. And this is due to the large concentration of carotenoids, particularly xanthophyll, and is the first mammal that is known to get enough carotenoids to actually develop these colors, which is quite cool. A 2019 study actually looked at them and showed that the brightness of the yellow pigments in the ears does not vary much between adults and juveniles, and adults have higher yellow chroma than the juveniles, though the yellow has more variation with some variation between them. And they also suggest that the colour difference of male and females may be sexual dichromatism, which means males may select for males with brighter noses. So it's a way that they select mates. And then a study looking at this pigment, so they suggest this may have been selected for a result of tent roosting and reconstructions of the ancestral state so that the yellow coloration co-evolved with tent roosting. And as sunlight passes through the green leaves, it results in the yellowish tips, so any band with yellowish coloration has a more effective camouflage and more likely to reproduce. So it's a way of camouflage and that allows them to better reproduce. They are quite a small species, with a head to body length of about 37 to 47 millimeters, or about 1.5 to 1.9 inches, a forearm length of about 27.8 to 29.3 millimeters, or 0.19 inches to 1.15 inches, and a length of 10 to 15 millimeters, or basically less than like 0.3 to 0.5% of an inch. Individuals weigh only 5 to 6 grams, and then, as you can see, their nose leaf is quite erect, their tail is absent, and their ears are quite large and rounded as well. And they actually have separated margins and 8 to 10 warts, which is quite interesting as well. And they have a dental formula, and they have about 28 teeth. So in terms of biology, we'll talk about their little tent making. So these guys are approximately of one of the 22 species of bat known to roost within leaf tents. So these guys curl the side veins, cuts its side veins, and extending out the midrib of live leaves, or like heliconia, causing them to fold down like a tent. These tents are likely constructed by multiple individuals, and females have been observed constructing tents, but males likely do it as well. New tents are constructed throughout the year, and modifying the leaves in tents causes the leaves to die. And once modified to one tent, leaf lives for about 7.5 weeks, compared to the 71 weeks of an unmodified leaf. Several species of heliconia are used as these roosts, and particularly there's also been other species like Calathea that have been used as roosts. And selecting leaves to turn, it appears that the age and size of the leaf is most important for the species of plant. Preferred leaves are about 0.8 to 1.2 millimeters, or about 26 to 30.9 feet, and less than 30 days old. Younger leaves may be preferred as they're easier to bite through in shape than older leaves, and they also prefer leaves that are less than 2 meters above the forest floor. Preferred leaves are also areas in low story but higher canopy vegetation density, and heliconia density is lower surrounding chosen leaves. And this is actually the features of these guys. Tents actually show that they maintain a constant microclimate. So tents are usually about 23 degrees Celsius with little fluctuation, and high canopy density can also protect the tents from wind and rain. And because these tents constructions can take up to several weeks worth of time for several individuals, choosing more sheltered tents can also prolong the lifespan and protect the bats' investments in making these little tents. And low understory vegetation is also thought to be beneficial, as it providing uncluttered airspace for bats just they exit and enter the tents. They also cling to the roof of their tents in small colonies of about 1 to 15, and these tents are protected from rain and predators. And rather than roosting in a single tent consistently, they have a network of tents that they use throughout the forest, and alternates against these tents for resting, with single tents being continuously occupied for up to 45 days. And although they're typically low to the ground, sunlight filters through the leaf to give it a white fur, a greenish cast to conceal it from, basically, if they remain still, conceal it from predators. And it also proposed that white fur gives it the appearance of a wasp nest, which also is avoided by predators. And likely has several predators such as Central American squirrel monkeys, capuchin monkeys, and snakes. So in terms of its diet and foraging, the Honduran white bat is frugivore, so they eat a lot of fruit. And along with the little white-shouldered bat, they are one of the 2 smaller species of frugivorous bats in the world, and specialize on a species of fig, basically Frugulus columbine. However, other species are occasionally consumed, but they mostly focus on this species. They prefer them because they're high quality and produce many fruits at once. They also choose these fig prues as they're closest to their day roosts, and have asymmetric fruit production, so fruit that's available as a food source year-round. And because it's so highly specialized to this one species of fig, it has larger foraging movements than observed in frugivorous bats that are less specialized, and individuals can have an average home range of about 63 hectares. It's unclear how they manage to survive on narrow diets, but it's predicted they actually consume supplementary food sources. So in terms of reproduction, it's actually little known about the reproduction of these bats, but it's been proposed that these individuals give birth to in April, September, with estrus occurring post-partition, so after they give birth. Pregnant females have been observed in February, March, June, July, and August in Costa Rica, with lactating females documented in March and April. And females will have synchronized births, so all births within a colony will occur within a week. And the litter size is often one offspring, called the pup. And during lactation, the mother will return to the roost about 6 times a night to feed their pups, and pups will fledge or become capable of flying at about 3 to 4 weeks of age. So as I mentioned, they are found in several countries in Central America, such as Costa Rica, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama. And unusually, it is one of 4 species of left-known bats endemic to Central America. Most are actually found in South America, with a range encompassing elevations between 0 to 700 meters above sea level, and they prefer wet evergreen forests and secondary forests, which can accommodate their roosting and dietary requirements. And also, funnily enough, despite being a conspicuously coloured bat, over 60 years has passed in discovery, and they're currently evaluated as near threatened, as they meet this criteria because their population is in a significant decline, though it's not a huge decline, but they are vulnerable. However, the verge of quantifying for vulnerable, because of a lot of their habitat's conversion to farmland, as well as expanding human pollution, has been an issue for these guys and habitat loss. And that's quite sad and quite important to note because, as I mentioned, they are highly specialised and eat a single species of fig. So if that species went extinct, these guys will go extinct. And loss of habitat just means it makes it harder for them to find the fig that they need. Though in human health applications, it's really interesting. In 2016, they discovered that the Honduran white bat uses carotenoids to produce its yellow-orange coloration. And it was the first mammal documented with high enough collection of carotenoids to produce visible skin color. And they isolate its pigments from its diet and the fruits that they eat. And lutein, which is the carotenoid responsible for this presentation, is present in the skin in its estroside form, which is free form in liver. It's also suggested that they actually convert free lutein to esterified lutein, which humans are unable to do. And this actually protein or carotenoid plays a quite important part of the eyes by preventing damage to the retina. It's also hypothesized that free lutein in human eyes was esterified. This would be more effective preventing damage and preserving vision. And I'm saying the process which these bats can actually convert free lutein to esterified lutein could understand how stable and stability and bioavailability of carotenoids benefits human health. So it's a great thing that we can learn about, and something, a great reason why we should also keep these bats alive, because we get to learn so much about them. So yeah, really, really cool little bat. Tosco DS did a really great job with that. Nice to see a cool little bat species, and they're really, really cute. They're just super cute. So next up, next 3 mods were all done by Mega Kebab. So let's have a look at these guys here. We've got the maroon leaf monkey, also known as the red leaf monkey, or just the maroon langer. So let's have a look at these cute little guys here. That's a juvenile. We'll have a look at an adult. No, that's not what we wanted. So that's an adult one. Let's see if we can wait until he runs off into a nice sunny place. So this also is Cetobirus rubicunda or kunda. These guys are a member of the family Cetopithecidae and is found in Southeast Asian island of Borneo, and near the island or nearby a smaller island of Karamata. And these guys typically spend most of their time in forests of altitudes lower than 2,000 meters and feed on leaves, seeds, and fruits. So in terms of their distribution and habitat, these guys are endemic to the islands of Borneo, and they live in dense diabatrop evergreen forests. And Borneo luckily has healthy tropical rainforests, which contains many swampy areas. And these swampy areas have seasonal bouts of dry weather during the wet season, and these are arboreal primates that spend most of their time in the canopy. They have quite large home ranges and low population densities compared to other primates, and this is believed because they rely on specific trees which are rare but also widely dispersed. So in terms of their diet, these guys are herbivores, so they mainly feed on fruits, seeds, young leaves, and flowers, and they are quite selective feeders. So They're quite selective eaters, so food is limited, and they'll only eat certain types of plant matter or seeds, depending on during the time of abundance. And to balance their diet as well, they will consume topsoil from termite mounds. So their primary food is the young parts of leaf, feeding less frequently on seeds or whole fruits, but also will feed occasionally on flowers. Feeding patterns will also vary seasonally. As fruit season peaks between June to September, there's an increase in fruit being eaten, and during times of abundance, they actually will leave large amounts of seeds on the ground. As well, and consumption of young leaves happens primarily from October to June, but especially in June, and during this dry time of the year, they would consume more succulent fruits and decrease their intake of seeds. And flowers are mostly consumed between March and May. There's only one type of flower that becomes high demand resource during December. And food becomes scarce during the raining season, and the time these guys eat mature leaves. And they're quite a cute little monkey, aren't they? During April to June, these guys, maroon leaf monkeys, consume the topsoil of termite mounds to obtain the minerals needed for a balanced diet. As these mounds, the soil on these mounds has high levels of calcium and magnesium, but also is a great source of potassium and phosphorus. And the soil is also very acidic and has a dominant effect on guttogens due to their leaching of aluminium. And this actually may be due to the termite saliva, since termite soil has higher nutrient concentration than those of surrounding bed soil. So that's what they'll do to supplement their diet. So because maroon leaf monkeys are from Southeast Asia, they most enjoy scarcity of fruit due to unpredictable fruiting seasons. They spend half their time eating leafy greens, other eating seeds and fruits. They favour highly digestible leaves, which has relatively low fibre. They'll also combine young leaves with flowers to have high levels of protein, and fruits and seeds typically have high concentrations of fats and carbohydrates. And they only eat from rare trees and lianas, and they must rely on fallback resources when these foods are typically not abundant. But during the 25-month period that's been observed, they spend 46% of their time feeding in the young leaves, 38% on seeds, 12% on whole fruits, 2% on flowers, 1% on bark, and 1% on pith, which is interesting. And one area of eastern Salba in the Danum Valley has a rainfall of average 3,150 millimeters between the year 2007 and 2008, with temperatures ranging between 31.4 to 22.5 degrees, with a mean of about 27 degrees. And only 7 of the 20 available species were consumed, 7 out of the 20. And when seeds are fruits and abundant, the monkey will spend most of its time eating them. During this time, they use fallback resources. They like the species Spagabolus macroterus. They seem a lot like that, as they typically have a lot more protein, and they will feed on different types of leaves according to their abundance, with most fruits being available. With these more fruits being available, they increase their time feeding on seeds by about 28%. So you can see a really interesting little monkey there. Let's see if we can find the baby and talk about them. Let's have a look at the little cutie. Really, really cute little monkey. I like the maroon colour. I think I like the reddish colour those monkeys have. It's quite cool. Definitely a nice one. So, next up, we've got another mod by Mega Kebab. We've got the Lahorst's monkey, or Lahorst's monkey, or Hoset's monkey. Not sure exactly how you pronounce that, but we'll have a look at them anyway. So that's another really cool monkey, or called Allocropithecus elosi, which is also known as the mountain monkey. They're a Gunon, not native to Southeast Asia. These guys are from the upper eastern Congo basin, where they live in mostly mountainous forest areas and in small female-dominated groups. And you can see they have a dark color and can be distinguished by a characteristic white beard. So, in terms of taxonomy, they were actually originally named by Philip Luther Sculter, who gave their name in honor of Francis Lahoyce, who was director of the Antwerp Zoo in 1898, and now considered a genus, member of the genus Allocropithecus, which is thought to be a different subspecies. They're thought to be a subspecies of the Rhesus monkey, but now considered their own species. They were also formerly put in the genus Ceratopithecus, but now put in their own genus. In terms of their physical characteristics, you can kind of see here. They have a short dark brown coat with a chestnut colour along the back and dark belly, and the cheeks are light grey with a pale moustache. They also have a characteristic and prominent white bib, as you can kind of see there. You see that bib going on. In terms of their body length, there's about 12.5 to 27 inches, or about 32 to 69 centimeters, with a 19 to 39 inch or 48 to 99 centimeter tail. Males will weigh about 6 kilograms or 13 pounds, while females will weigh around 3.5 kilograms or about 7 pounds, and their tail is long and hook-shaped at the end, and they're born fully coated with their eyes open. So the hoist monkey are found around the northeastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, and western Uganda. They're a forest monkey and typically prefer moist and high primary forests. They occur in a range of different forest types, though, including gallery forests, mature lowland forests, wooded savannas, and mountain slopes, and forest borders. However, they will live on cultivated land. And in lowland forests, they do prefer areas where the forest is regenerating, and while in mountain areas they will frequent mature undergrowth that is tangled and between the broken canopy. In one study found the population only above 900 meters or 3,000 feet, but another one was found as low as 610 meters, but mostly they are observed at between 1,500 to 2,500 meters, which is between 4,800 and 8,200 feet. So in terms of their behavior, they typically live in fairly small groups, dominated by females, and have only a single male in them. The females are usually related, while the male only stays for a couple of weeks or at most a couple of years. The adult male will make a very long and distinct call, and they are active during the day, mostly during early morning or late afternoon. Then they sleep in the trees in a sitting position, usually each holding branches for each other, and when alarmed they will see that they've been observed, they will flee and take shelter in the trees and be very still. And though they are mostly terrestrial monkeys. Let's have a look at these little guys down the bottom. Let's have a look at another one. Have a look at the female for a while. So, in terms of reproduction, the Lahoist monkey breeds seasonally, and the timing depends on the area. They typically have a 6-month or 5-month gestation period, and they give birth to one of these cute little babies that we can find over here. Look at this little cutie. We'll wait for him to run out of the bush. The mother typically gives birth at night, and whatever she happens to be at, wherever she happens to be at the time. Birth usually occurs at the end of the dry season, which allows lactation when rainfall is highest, and she will eat the placenta and lick the baby clean white while it hangs from her belly. The other females in the group will show much interest in the newborn and try to hold it, but after a few months, nursing will become less frequent, and they will eventually continue for about 2 years when there is another birth. And when male offspring reach sexual maturity, they leave the group. In captivity, they have been known to live up to 30 years, so they are quite a long-lived species, and I don't want that happening. That's gross. Anyway, so yeah. In terms of their diet, though, the wild Lahoist monkey is primarily herbivore, but they will eat mostly fruits, mushrooms, and herbs, roots and leaves. However, they will occasionally take eggs, lizards, and small birds, so they are mostly herbivorous, but will take the occasional little, snack like that. Yeah, quite cool. Nice, cool monkey to see. Another great one from Mega Kebab. I think I covered this one ages ago, so it's nice to see that they've gone back and remastered it after all this time, and gave it a much better look. But anyway, we got our last Mega Kebab mob. We have got, mod. We've got the Southern Pigtail Macaque, as we can kind of see here. Looks really, really nice. Definitely a big fan of these guys. So this is Macana nestrata. They're also known as the Sunderland Pigtail Macaque or the Sunda Pigtail Macaque. These guys are a medium-sized macaque that live in Sunderland. So places like the Sunda Islands like Borneo and Java and Malaysia. They also can be found in Indonesia, southern Thailand, Malaysia and Indonesia, and locally known as the Buruk. The species name Nemesisero means God of the Groves, and modified to agree with the gender of the feminine generic name. And they formerly included the northern pigtail, the Palangi pigtail, Palangi Island, and short macaques as subspecies, but all four are now considered their own different subspecies, different species now. So this is its own species. And as with other species of macaque, males are larger than the females, while males measure about 50 to 58 centimeters, or about 20 to 23 inches. In length and weigh between 5 to 12 kilograms or 11 to 26 pounds. In weight, females measure between 38 to 48 centimeters or 5 to 19 inches. In length and weigh between 4.5 to 6 kilograms or about 9 to 13 pounds. So males are definitely a lot bigger. These guys have a buff brown fur, while their darker dorsal area is lighter ventral area. So basically, they have a dark back and a light belly. And their common name refers to their short tail, which is semi-erect and almost looks like the tail of a pig. So that's where they get the name the pig-tailed macaque. As you can kind of see there, that really round tail they've got there. Is that a male? Yeah, it's a male. Have a look at a female. Let's see if we can find one. No, that's not where we wanted. No. So that's what a female looks like. At least I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's a female. So in terms of their behavior in ecology, these guys are mainly terrestrial, but they are quite skilled climbers. And unlike almost all other primate species, these macaques also love water. They live in large groups that split into smaller groups during the daytime, where they are foraging. They're also quite omnivorous, so they will feed mainly on fruits, seeds, berries, cereals, fruits, fungi, and invertebrates. And a study in actually Malaysia suggests that these guys are quite important seeds dispersers for rattan species. In terms of how they define their hierarchies, though, their hierarchies are typically defined by strength, and in males and females based on heredity. So, thus, the daughter of the alpha female will automatically be placed above all other females in the group, with the alpha female leading the group, while the male is more there to manage conflict within the group, but also defend it. So we'll have a look at the cute little baby as we talk about their reproduction. See if we can spot one. There's a cute little baby there. It's a little baby macaque. So female's gestation lasts about 5.7 months, and she will give birth to one infant every 2 years. Weaning will typically take place about 4 to 5 months, and they reach sexual maturity at about 3 to 5 years. And very interestingly as well, in Thailand they've been trained for over 400 years to harvest coconuts, so it makes it a lot easier for people to, harvest them. Let's see if we can find a male. Let's talk about the males again. But in terms of the habitat and distribution, these macaques are mostly found in rainforests up to 2,000 meters, or about 6,600 feet, but they will also enter plantations and gardens, and they're typically found in the southern heart of the Malay Peninsula, Borneo, Sumatra, and the Molucca Island. There are also reports of them being seen in Singapore, but these are likely escaped pets, as the only pigtail macaques in Singapore are introduced monkeys. As I mentioned, they have been used to grab posts and harvest coconuts, and they are considered vulnerable, I believe, or endangered. So that's because of most of the things that they're endangered by, things like collection for the pet trade, limited habitat destruction, things like that. So it's probably same stuff, same monkey, different story. Those are the same things impacting these primates. Hopefully they do a little bit better, because they are quite cool. They're definitely a monkey that I definitely like, and I remember seeing one at my local zoo, and they're quite a cool little monkey. But anyway, we're going to move on. So that was all. Those last 3 monkeys were all done by Mickey Kebab, and our last animal was done by a returning modder. We've got Leather Wolf coming back, which is quite amazing. We have got the African wolf. So that's a really cool one I'm excited to talk about. So this is the African wolf, or the other name is Canis lupasta. So these guys are a canid native to North Africa, West Africa, the Sahel, Northeast Africa, and the Horn of Africa. So they are listed as least concerned with ICN, and the Middle Atlas of Morocco. They live at elevations as high as 1,800 meters or 5,000 feet. So in terms of their name, they do have quite a few names, also called the African wolf, the African golden wolf, the African golden jackal, the golden wolf, and all those kind of names, and also lots of local names. And in terms of their anatomy, they're kind of in between African jackals and some smaller subspecies or smaller populations of grey wolf. Both sexes reach between 7 to 15 kilograms, or about 15 to 33 pounds, and about 40 centimeters in height. And there is a high degree of size variability geographically, with western and northern subspecies or African specimens being larger than their East Asian cousins. They also have a relatively long snout and ears that can measure up to about 20 centimeters in length, a short tail about 20 centimeters in length, Fur colour variety varies quite individually, also seasonally and geographically, though they're typically yellowish to silver grey, with slightly reddish limbs and black speckling along the tails and shoulders. The throat and abdomen are typically white, and so are the facial markings, and the eyes are amber coloured. Also, superficially, they look like the golden jackal. These guys have a more pointed muzzle and sharper, more robust teeth, so that's the main way to tell them apart. So everyone was kind of curious about their taxonomy. Lots of people wrote of them. They wrote Aristotle actually wrote of wolves living in Egypt, and lots of people looking into them. But most recent taxonomies I've been looking into them. They were thought to be Canis lupus types of their own species of wolf. And most taxonomy, there's been further doubts they were considered conspecific with the golden jackals in Eurasia, and looking into their taxonomy, actually looks like they're quite different. So most comprehensive kind of genomics look in these guys show that North African canids were all distinct from the golden jackal, and is actually they are more closely related to grey wolves and coyotes than they are to than the like grey wolves and domestic dogs. And it showed that these guys are more closely related to grey wolves and coyotes than jackals, golden jackals, which are completely different. So they are their own species. It was actually estimated that the African wolf diverged from the wolf-coyote clade about 1 million to 1.7 million years ago during the Pleistocene, and therefore all of its kind of similarities to the golden jackal is actually parallel evolution, so they occupied a similar niche, so they're slightly different, though they are more closely related to coyotes and wolves than they are to jackals. Considering this phylogenetic position in the canine fossil record, it's likely that they evolved from larger ancestors and became more jackal-like upon populating Africa, along with interspecific competition with larger and smaller indigenous carnivores. But traces of African wolf DNA has been identified in golden jackals and suggests there may be a hybrid zone and they may be breeding. So that is quite interesting. And there has been some evidence of admixture with other species in the genus Canis, and I believe the Pala is the genus of jackals. So there has been some evidence of breeding, but they're different genera. They seem to have bred a lot with Ethiopian wolves as well. The common ancestor of both African wolf populations are genetically admixed canid of about 72 grey wolf and 28 species Ethiopian wolf as well. So there's evidence that there may be not a gene flow between African wolves, golden jackals, and grey wolves. So even though we like to keep species neat and tidy, there's a lot of mixture between these guys to create their own species. And what's really fun as well, between 2011 and 2015, two mitochondrial DNA studies showing that the Himalayan wolf and the Indian wolf, which are both subspecies of the grey wolf or the whole Arctic wolf, are actually more closely related to African wolves than they are to the whole Arctic grey wolf. And it's actually proven to be pretty much the same. So they are more closely related to Himalayan and Indian wolves than they are to African wolves. And there has been some evidence of subspecies or different populations. In the past, there have been several attempts to Romanize these names. There's actually quite confusing taxonomy. And prior to 1814, 6 other 10 supported of West African subspecies were named based on entirely on their pelt colour. But a lot of these subspecies I don't think really hold up the test of time, but they do have quite a lot of variability, and this is coupled with the scarcity of samples and lack of physical barriers preventing gene flow. They question a lot of the validity of these guys. But looking at studies of genetic divergence actually suggested all African wolves which occurred between 50,000 and 10,000 years ago, with most occurring between 30,000 to 16,000 years ago during the last glacial maximum, as these were very dry periods across the Sahara, and they may have been isolated in refugia, and that would have caused them to be isolated for generations. So that could have caused that genetic divergence. As I mentioned, there's a few different subspecies. There's 6 different subspecies, but I'm not sure how actually well defined they are. There's not really too much differences between them. They're just subspecies. In terms of their social and reproductive behaviors, the African wolf's social organization is quite flexible, and that depends on their availability as food. The basic social unit is typically a breeding pair, followed by current offspring or offspring of previous litters staying as helpers, but large groups are rare and have only been found in areas with abundant human waste. Family relationships among these wolves are actually comparatively peaceful compared to those of the black-backed jackal, and although sexual and territorial behaviour of grown parts are suppressed by the breeding pair, they're not actively driven off by their attain adulthood, and they will groom each other and lie together much more frequently than black-backed jackals. And in the Serengeti, pairs defend permanent territories about 2 to 4 kilometres, and will vacate these territories to only drink or learn by a carcass, and the pair patrols and marks this territory in tandem. So they do have quite a long courtship period. The courtship rituals are remarkably long, and during which the breeding pair remains almost constantly together. Prior to mating, they will patrol and set mark their territory, and copulation is preceded by the female holding her tail out and angled to allow her to be exposed for the male. And then once they've mated, they have the puppies. So typically in the Serengeti, pups are born December to January, and begin to eat solid foods about a month, with weaning starting at about 2 months. And the ends about 4 months. At this stage, they're about semi-independent and will venture about 50 meters from the den, even sleeping on the open. And their playing behaviors, and they become increasingly aggressive, and that's where they learn to hunt. And they often, the wolf's life centers around a home burrow, and that actually will usually consist of an abandoned or modified aardvark or warthog earth, which is kind of the interior structure of this burrow is poorly understood, but it typically has a single chamber with a few escape routes, and they use them as defense against other predators as well. So in communication, what's very interesting, they will groom one another, particularly during courtship, and they can last 30 minutes. They often will nibble on each other's faces and necks. Their species postures are very typical canine, but they do have more facial mobility than blackback and side-striped jackals, so they're able to bare their teeth like a wolf or a dog would. And the vocalizations of these species are very similar to domestic dogs, including howls, barks, growls, whines, and crackles. And subspecies can be recognized slightly by their howls, and it depends on different things. And they'll actually use these kind of long continuous howls as well, that rise and fall, things like that, and howling in chorus reinforces those family bonds, very similar to wolves. And actually a comparative analysis of African wolves and some grey wolf species have demonstrated that the former's howls bear similarities of those of the Indian wolves, being high-pitched and being for a relatively short period, which is quite cool. So in hunting behaviour, they actually really catch hares due to their speed, but gazelle mothers are typically formidable for them, as they defend the young against single wolves, which are more successful at hunting when working in pairs. A pair of wolves will methodically search for concealed gazelle fawns within herds, tall grass, or other hiding places. And although they are known to kill animals up to 3 times their own weight, the African wolf will target mammalian prey much less frequently than the black-backed jackal. And on capturing large prey, they make no attempts to kill it, except they just rip open its belly and eat it. Small prey is typically killed by shaking. Those snakes may be eaten alive on the tail end. And they often carry more food than they can consume, and caches them as surplus, and are usually recovered within 24 hours. And when foraging for insects, the African wolf will often turn over dung piles to find dung beetles, and during the dry season they'll actually excavate dung balls to reach the larvae inside. And also they'll eat grasshoppers and flying termites mid-air, and they'll also be known to dominate vultures on kills, and one can hold back a dozen vultures at bay by threatening them. So I mentioned they've got, in terms of their ecology, quite a wide habitat. They've got a wide range against the habitat, so most of northern Africa into northern eastern Africa, around Tanzania. It's quite a huge range. And actually fossils dating back to the Pleistocene suggest they were not always restricted to Africa. They may have lived up to around Saudi Arabia and Levant. So that's quite interesting. So quite a huge range. In Algeria, they live in the Mediterranean, so they have quite a variety of habitats. In Egypt, they live in agricultural areas and desert margins. Some areas they live in the desert. There's great variety in their habitats. So in terms of their diet, they mainly feed on small prey, such as hares, rats, cane rats, and ground squirrels. However, other items they'll eat are snakes, lizards, ground-nesting birds, such as falcons, and bustards. They'll also eat a large amount of insects like dung beetles, larvae, and grasshoppers. They'll also kill young gazelles, duikers, and warthogs. And in East Africa, they're thought to eat a lot of invertebrates and fruit. Though 60% of their diets consist of rodents, lizards, snakes, birds, hares, and Thompson's gazelles. But also during the wild wildebeest calving season, they've also been seen to feed almost exclusively on the afterbirth. And in the Serengeti and Nicaragua equator, less than 20% of their diets comes from scavenging. And in Senegal, where both subspecies, there's some a kind of degree of niche partitioning. So some will feed primarily on lambs, and others will feed on larger prey like sheep, goats, and cattle. So in terms of their enemies or / competitors, they tend to manage to avoid competing with blackback and side-striped jackals by occurring in different habitats. So they typically live in grasslands, while open woodlands are typically preferred by both species of jackals, and actually more active during the daytime. But they have been known to kill the pups of black-backed jackals, and have turn been observed being dominated by adults during disputes over carcasses. They'd often eat alongside African wild dogs, which they stand their grounds as dogs try to harass them, and encounters with Ethiopian wolves usually antagonistic, with Ethiopian wolves dominating African wolves as the latter enters their territories and vice versa. And although African wolves are indifferent to ineffective rodent hunters, and they are not really direct competition to Ethiopian wolves, which primarily hunt rodents, um, it's likely that human prosecution actually prevents the former from obtaining large enough numbers to completely displace the latter. So they're not good at hunting rodents as well as Ethiopian wolves, which are quite actually well adapted for it. So they don't outcompete them. And there's actually one record of an African wolf pack adopting a male Ethiopian wolf. So that's kind of evidence they could potentially have, hybridization. So we see that, in their genetics, they hybridize with wolves and things like that. Especially Ethiopian wolves. Anyway, they've also been seen to feed alongside spotted hyenas, though they will be chased if they're approached too closely. Spotted hyenas will sometimes follow wolves during the gazelle fawning season, as wolves are effective in tracking these young animals, and hyenas do not take the eating wolf flesh readily, and 4 hyenas were reportedly to take half an hour to eat one. However, the two animals will typically ignore each other when no food or young is at stake, and wolves will confront hyenas approaching too closely and take to their dens and take turns biting the hyenas' hocks until they retreat. And sadly, these guys do carry a lot of viruses. They've actually been known to carry the canine paravirus, herpes virus, canine coronavirus, and canine adenovirus. But yeah, what's very interesting as well, these guys are quite important in history. They've featured in a bunch of numerous ancient Egyptian deities like Anubis, and the wolf was scared of Lycopus, which was they actually kind of mummified them. They were held in such high regard by ancient Egyptians, or Arab Egyptian folklore actually suggests they would cause chickens to faint in fear of them, which is quite interesting. They're also quite common in Neolithic art, as we see them painted along, and they're also actually quite important in the role of the Sengur religion's creation myth, whether they were the first living creature by Rog, who was the supreme god and creator. And one aspect, they were considered as an earth diver sent to earth by Rug, and is considered to be a fallen prophet and is the first intelligent creature on earth. So yeah, very interesting history with these guys, and actually a very underrated species that we don't get to see very often, but luckily we get to see them in Planet Zoo. So Level Wolf, welcome back, and I'm really excited to see more mods from you. I really love your mods, Level Wolf. But yeah, we will head back and then talk about, I think this is a good place to end the video. So I'm really awesome mods from everyone. Good job, Scott, Narwhaler, Tosco DS, and Mega Kebab, and Level Wolf. You've all done really, really great jobs with your mods. It's all been really wonderful. So I really, really, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to get the little bell icon to get notified of anything. So if you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye bye.